Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You know that feeling, right? The one that hits the second the calendar flips to November.
Oh, absolutely.
The air gets crisp, the lights go up, you hear that holiday music starting to loop everywhere. And there's this incredible, this atmosphere of just pure joy.
It is beautiful.
Yep.
It really is. But, right underneath that holiday soundtrack, there's a different sound, a much quieter one.
What's that?
It's the sound of your internal financial alarm system just starting to buzz. It's that deep, persistent hum of stress.
A hum of stress. I like that. It's this emotional dissonance, right? Between what the world expects you to spend and what your bank account knows you can safely afford.
Exactly. It's a total dissonance. On one hand, you have this idea of generosity and celebration, which we all love.
Of course.
But on the other, the reality of what that looks like in commercials, the new phones, the expensive trips, these huge piles of gifts that can translate directly into months of anxiety, or even worse, debt.
And for the learner who provided us with this source material, the mission was just so essential. How do we navigate this pressure cooker? How do we manage the guilt, the expectations, and the practical challenge of money during this time?
Well, the sources we've been given are incredibly practical. I mean, really, really useful. They sort of strip away the emotional shame around having financial limits.
And replace it with what?
With concrete, usable concepts. And the exact language, the words you need to communicate your financial boundaries without sounding, defensive or awkward.
So this deep dive isn't just about making your holiday cheaper.
Not at all. It's about making your holiday quieter, more intentional, and at the end of the day, just more peaceful.
Okay, so our roadmap for today is built around that emotional journey. We're going to start with the internal feelings. What does it actually feel like to be financially constrained when it seems like everyone else is just running at full speed?
And from there, we'll spend a good amount of time dismantling the shame around the word budget, really turning it into what it should be, a healthy, disciplined plan.
Then we get into redefining value, tackling what you called the love score fallacy, and then finally we'll equip you with very specific social scripts for those, nerve-wracking group chat moments.
Our goal here is to really synthesize this material into tools, conceptual tools that let you step off that merry-go-round of forced consumption.
Giving you the stability and the confidence to enjoy the season based on your means, not someone else's expectation.
Exactly.
All right, let's unpack that emotional dimension first. Because if we don't get a handle on the feeling, none of the tools will really work. So we are diving straight into that internal, almost visceral feeling. When the words, "I need to be on a budget," cross your mind, what's the immediate reaction? The sources captured this state so perfectly. They described it not as a full-blown crisis, but something more subtle.
It's a physical sensation, isn't it? They described it as feeling a little tight, like someone is holding your wallet with just two fingers and saying,
"Careful."
Exactly, careful. It's not that your wallet is empty, but there's a hand there just preventing you from opening it too wide.
I thought the analogy they used was brilliant, that the world is at a giant, lavish feast, but internally, your wallet is on a diet.
A wallet on a diet. It just captures that sense of restriction amidst all this abundance, doesn't it?
It really does, because it highlights the contrast. The world is throwing sales at you, huge dinner menus, sparkling lights, ads for the newest tech on every corner.
And inside, you're the one sitting there quietly hunched over your phone, just constantly doing this complex math in your head.
You're doing a cost-benefit analysis on every single potential purchase.
Yeah.
You're thinking, am I going to regret this $50 expense come January?
And that intense scrutiny, that constant calculation, it's often driven by a very specific financial state that the sources were really careful to define.
All right, let's get into that spectrum. Let's start with the most people probably experience over the holidays, being tight on money.
Okay, so what's the deep difference here?
Well, when you're tight on money, you're definitely constrained, but you're not. You're not bankrupt.
Right. You have enough to cover the normal things, the rent, the transport, basic groceries, utilities. You've got fuel in the tank for the daily commute.
The problem comes when you run into the discretionary spending, the optional, the large expenses, the big gifts, the spontaneous trips, those luxury meals.
You have no margin for error, no room for indulgence. Being tight on money means you have to be strategic, you have to conserve. The essentials are covered, but the extras, they're difficult, maybe impossible without some future pain.
So it's not poverty, it's resource constraint that you have to actively manage. It's the difference between having enough gas to drive to work, but not enough to justify that spontaneous 500-mile road trip the friend group is suddenly planning.
But the external world expects the road trip.
Precisely. And that's where we hit that stronger definition, which needs a whole different approach: being broke.
And broke is the stronger constraint. The sources define it as having literally no money to spend after your essential obligations are met.
I'm broke after paying the bills.
Exactly. That means you are in a survival state. The focus shifts entirely from, budgeting for gifts to just ensuring stability, maybe even having to rely on emergency funds.
This distinction is so important because the emotional response is different. If you're tight on money, the feeling is responsibility, conservation.
But if you're broke, the feeling is usually high-stress anxiety. It's immediate crisis.
And the holiday season is just brutal because it treats both of these serious financial states as if they're just excuses for not being festive enough.
It's the sheer visibility of other people's supposed prosperity that just amplifies the pain. The sources really highlighted that constant comparison.
Social media.
Social media. You open your feed and you see new phones, designer bags, massive Christmas trees just overflowing with perfectly wrapped boxes.
And that little voice in your head asks, am I the only one who's practicing restraint right now?
And that moment when your resource constraint starts to feel like a personal failure, that is the psychological trap.
It leads right to the core pressure point, captured in that phrase, I feel like I have to keep up.
And that phrase, it's a declaration of social pressure that's just masquerading as a financial decision.
It means feeling compelled to match the spending of your peers, your neighbors, these idealized images you see online, even if it completely compromises your own financial health.
It's the cost of conformity, and it's almost always unsustainable.
But I want to challenge this for a second, because doesn't that feeling, that need to keep up, come from a valid human place?
Go on.
It's not just vanity. A lot of the time it's about avoiding being excluded or, protecting your pride, especially around family. If I show up with a tiny handmade gift and my siblings all bring these lavish, expensive items, I don't just feel broke. I feel less.
That is exactly the nuance. And the sources really emphasize that while everyone looks happy, so many people are quietly doing math in their head. They see that expensive gift and their stomach tightens.
So the psychological defense is what?
It's recognizing that the smile on the outside often hides the struggle on the inside. The real insight is that by accepting your financial state, whether you're tight on money or you're broke, you gain control. You replace that reactive spending with intentional planning.
And we have to remember who feels this most acutely. The profile of the learner. Students, people in their first jobs, or those with these huge obligations, like sending money home to family.
Absolutely. For them, being tight on money isn't a choice. It's an act of love. It's an act of responsibility to their wider network. They are the ones who truly need to watch every coin.
Their constraint isn't some temporary shopping pause. It's a necessary position of multi-generational responsibility.
Exactly. And a shame that society tries to put on them needs to be completely stripped away. Which brings us to our next step. Turning the tool for this, the budget, from a source of shame into a source of real power.
Okay, it is time for some verbal rehabilitation. Because for so many people, the word budget, it just lands with this heavy thud of deprivation.
It sounds like no.
It sounds like no, you can't have fun. But we need to flip that narrative completely. According to the sources, a budget is not a bad word. It is simply a plan for how you use your money.
That reframing is absolutely fundamental. A budget is financial self-governance. It's not about restrictions imposed by scarcity. It's about freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom realized through intentionality.
So when you say you're on a budget, you're just confirming that you're following that plan. You're sticking to your money plan.
Exactly. When you say, my holiday budget is $50, I'll buy small gifts and some food, but nothing extra, that isn't a complaint. It's a clear statement of strategy.
It means you're prioritizing your stability over some momentary pleasure.
And this is so important because, as the sources pointed out, many people aren't constrained by a lack of money, but by a lack of discipline. A budget introduces that discipline.
I really like that anecdote about the young professional. In their first year in a new city, they had a small but functional salary.
Right. Rent was covered. Essentials were covered. But the moment friends started planning these elaborate ski trips and exchanging expensive electronics, the budget became the necessary shield.
That shield, though, requires putting specific strategies into action. So let's detail those key action verbs for financial control, starting with the goal itself, to save up.
To save up is that proactive accumulation of money. little by little for something specific and important.
It requires foresight, deferred gratification.
It does. And you should think of it less as hoarding and more as constructing a safety net or building towards a big necessary goal, saving up for a down payment, a kid's education, or more simply, just making sure you have the rent covered in January after all the holiday bills hit.
It's goal-oriented. But to achieve that goal, the often painful but necessary step comes next. You have to cut back.
Cutting back, it's the active reduction of usage or consumption. It's the daily sacrifice that actually fuels the savings goal.
And the examples the sources gave are so relatable. Cutting back on those daily expensive coffees, reducing impulse snack buys, or just looking at your streaming subscriptions and deciding.
Yeah, deciding you can probably live without one or two for a few months.
And if you, the listener, feel like those small cuts don't matter, let's just do the math that the source implied. If you're spending $5 a day on that specialty coffee or snack, cutting back means saving $35 a week. Over that intense 6-week holiday spending period, that's $210.
And that's $210 that can go toward essentials or a meaningful, even if it's small, gift. Those small acts of cutting back are what define real fiscal responsibility.
They absolutely are. And the successful execution of those cuts leads to that state of constant awareness, watching my spending.
This isn't just, setting a number in an app and forgetting about it. This is the active practice of looking carefully at every single transaction.
Yeah.
It's vigilance.
It's necessary vigilance, especially when retailers are using every psychological trick in the book to get you to impulse buy.
Exactly. Watching your spending means you're not accidentally drifting off your plan. You're checking receipts. You're monitoring your bank balance multiple times a week.
Yeah.
You're consciously pausing before you click confirm purchase online.
It's the moment-to-moment decision-making that keeps you aligned with your bigger strategy.
It is.
But let's talk about the social friction this can cause. When a family member or a friend, maybe someone older or better off, pushes back, they ask why you aren't spending more or why you're declining their expensive ideas.
That's when that simple, universally understood truth comes in to provide the context.
The classic idiom.
The classic, money doesn't grow on trees.
It sounds so simple, almost archaic, but its meaning is just so effective in justifying your constraint.
It's fundamental. It means that money is not easy to get. It's a limited resource that requires effort and labor and time. Using that phrase, even if it's just internally to yourself, justifies your budget.
It explains, without you having to share your bank statements, that your constraint is based on economic reality, not personal stinginess.
It shifts the entire discussion from "you are cheap" to "I respect the value of my labor."
Now, I'm going to challenge the phrase itself for a second. If a young person says, money doesn't grow on trees, doesn't that risk sounding a little defensive? Maybe even a bit childish.
That is a crucial point about tone. If you deliver it defensively, yes, it can sound childish. But the mature way to deploy that concept is to pair it with the transparency tactic we'll talk about later.
So you don't use the idiom itself?
Not necessarily. Instead of just stating the idiom, you say something like, I really value this relationship, but I'm prioritizing my long-term stability because money takes real work to earn. I'm living within my means.
So you're using the concept that money is earned without using the childlike phrasing.
Exactly. You reframe it as an adult value statement.
And that brings so much comfort. And if you are struggling with this, the source material was so explicit. You are not alone. You are in the same boat as so many others who are quietly prioritizing stability this holiday season.
Being in the same boat, it acknowledges this is a collective struggle. It's a shared act of responsibility.
And it transforms that feeling of personal inadequacy into solidarity.
And once we have that solidarity, we can then fully reject the idea that only expensive gifts have any real value.
We have arrived at the psychological centerpiece of all holiday stress. The love score fallacy. This is that ingrained, insidious assumption that if it's not expensive, it's not good. Or, even more brutally, that the size of the price tag is a direct measure of your affection, your love score.
This fallacy it's just so damaging. It forces people into economic decisions that completely betray their long-term security just to meet some manufactured consumerist standard of love.
If the price tag is the measure, then anyone on a budget is automatically deficient in love, regardless of their effort or their intention.
Right. It's a terrible way to think.
But let's ground this with a concrete counterpoint.
Yeah.
The source gave us that wonderful anecdote about the small notebook. Tell us why that small item was so much more valuable than something big and expensive.
The power was all in the intentionality. So the friend received something that was described as nothing fancy, easily replaceable, maybe cost just a few dollars.
Okay.
But the giver had taken the time to write this long, heartfelt message on the first page, recalling shared memories, inside jokes, and expressing this deep appreciation for the friendship. The object itself was just a vessel for the emotion.
So that small notebook, which was nothing fancy, became a powerful, meaningful gift. Its value was completely divorced from its price. It was rich with feeling.
And that's because the gift was inherently thoughtful. Thoughtful is the key concept here. It means you actually stopped and considered the person, their real needs, their unique history, what would genuinely touch their heart. Not just what the latest commercial told you to buy.
Thought requires time and attention, which are non-monetary and, in our busy world, honestly, often much rarer than cash.
Much rarer.
Let's elaborate on some examples of thoughtful gifts, because we need to move past the generic and give you, the listener, some real ammunition here.
We can categorize them. The sources talked a lot about the personalized route, and this doesn't mean, laser engraving a name on some luxury item. It means leveraging your shared history. Yeah. The example of the personalized playlist curating songs for every mood or memory you share is so potent because it costs $0, but it demands an intimate knowledge of the other person's life and emotions.
Another idea is creating a small, framed collage of photos from a shared trip. The cost is negligible, but the memory? It's priceless.
And then there's the handmade category. This shows a direct investment of your personal energy.
Yes, a handmade card, a knitted scarf, or a batch of their favorite cookies.
Or artisanal bread. The value of a handmade item is universally understood to include the labor and the affection of the giver. The source mentioned a simple but meaningful handmade card from a cousin, which just served as this reminder that effort will always trump expense.
When you give a handmade gift, you are literally giving a piece of your time and your attention, not just a credit card swipe.
You're fundamentally shifting the metric from how much did you spend to how much of yourself did you invest.
And that's what we mean when we say this gift has a story. It's not a transaction. It's a narrative continuation of your relationship.
And this transition, this shift in thinking, it equips us with that crucial emotional shield against the guilt we talked about earlier.
And that shield is the classic expression. It's the thought that counts.
It is.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate again. Because sometimes people use "it's the thought that counts" as an excuse for a low-effort, poorly chosen gift.
That's a fair challenge.
If I buy my coffee-loving friend a generic bag of stale tea just because I didn't want to try, is it still the thought that counts?
No. And the sources clarify this. That phrase is most powerful when it's deployed internally as self-reassurance. It is not permission to be lazy. It's permission to be budget-conscious without feeling shame.
So if you've genuinely invested effort and selected something personalized, but its price tag is small, then you remind yourself.
It's the thought that counts. It means the love and the deep attention behind the gift are more important than the cost.
So the true function of the phrase is to act as a little shield for your heart. Protecting you from that fear that you're limited means somehow diminish your love or your generosity.
Exactly. It protects you from that internal judgment that whispers, I should have done more, I should have spent more. By focusing on the thought, you validate the effort you put in, even if the gift is small but meaningful.
Okay, so we've established the internal philosophy. We're moving from price tag anxiety to intentional, thoughtful gifting.
Yeah.
But now we have to face the music.
The social arena.
The social arena, which is often where budgets just completely crash and burn. We call this the dinner dilemma.
The dinner dilemma, it's that high-stress moment. The group chat lights up with a proposal for an expensive, trendy new restaurant or maybe a pricey ticketed event.
And you get that immediate stomach-dropping internal thought.
Yeah.
I absolutely cannot afford that.
And you feel trapped. Trapped between wanting to see your friends and needing to protect your budget.
The pressure is so intense because we're afraid of being labeled cheap, boring, difficult.
So to overcome this, we need social scripts. We need language that is direct, warm, and honest without being overly dramatic. And the sources gave us 3 crucial scripts.
What's the first one?
The first is the direct, warm decline. This works best for a clear-cut no to a specific event. The script is, I'd love to, but I can't afford it right now, maybe next time.
That is a surgical piece of communication.
It is.
You immediately show your heart. I'd love to, which validates the friendship, but then you protect your reality. I can't afford it right now. Adding right now and maybe next time signals this is a temporary constraint, not a permanent rejection of the group.
The second tactic is the softer approach. This one leans on our new vocabulary. You use this when you want to frame the issue as constraint of your pre-existing healthy plan.
The line is, it's a bit out of my budget this month.
And this is just a professional, mature way to decline. It signals that you're following a system and this activity falls outside that system. It frames the rejection around your plan, not your absolute lack of money, which tends to earn a lot more respect.
Okay, and the third?
The third is the transparency tactic, and it's highly effective because it connects your current no to a future goal.
Okay.
You say, I'm trying to save up this month, so I'll skip this one.
That immediately shifts the listener's perception. Your decision isn't just about avoiding them. It's about achieving something important.
Right, like covering next month's rent, paying down a loan, saving for an emergency. People usually respect responsibility. It tells them, I am disciplined.
Now, if you want to stay connected but you just can't afford the venue, you need to pivot. You need to suggest an alternative right away.
You don't just decline, you offer a bridge. The proactive script is, can we do something simpler or cheaper?
And you follow that with an immediate, low-cost suggestion. That dinner sounds amazing, but I'm on a tight budget. Can we do a coffee date instead? Or maybe I can come over to your place for a board game night.
It confirms that you value the relationship, the quality time, over the expensive consumption.
Okay, let's shift to group payment dynamics. Because even if you go to a simpler gathering, splitting the bill can introduce so much awkwardness and unintended financial penalties.
Absolutely, especially for someone watching their spending. So you need to be fluent in the 3 ways groups manage shared expenses.
First up, the standard. Split the bill.
This is the easiest, but it's potentially the most unfair to the budget-conscious person. It means everyone pays an equal part of the total.
Right, so if one person ordered a $10 salad and water, and everyone else ordered $30 entrees and cocktails, that person still pays a quarter of the total.
Exactly. When a group suggests this, you need to be prepared to counter.
Which brings us to the budget-conscious person's best friend. Let's go Dutch.
Going Dutch is essential vocabulary. It means each person pays only and exactly for their own food and drink. This is critical for maintaining your budget integrity.
So when the bill comes, if someone says, let's just split it, this is your moment, you have to politely interject, I'm just watching my spending this month. Can we go Dutch?
Exactly. And then the third method, often for communal things, shall we all chip in a little?
To chip in means everyone contributes a small, agreed upon, usually uniform amount to cover a group cost.
Right. This is for things like wine for the table, a shared gift for a host, or maybe a group taxi. It keeps the transaction simple and avoids tracking every little item.
Knowing these terms means you don't have to fumble when the bill arrives. You can propose a clear, recognized system that protects your budget.
And this communication strategy extends directly to gift expectations in group settings like the office or your extended family.
Right. If you know you're walking into a Secret Santa with a $100 limit,
you have the opportunity to deploy some soft power to adjust that collective expectation. Instead of just accepting it, you can suggest a gentle phrase to lower the boundary.
For example, would it be okay if we set a small limit for gifts, say $25? I'm on a budget this year.
Or the even softer, more inclusive version. Shall we keep it simple this year? I think it might take some pressure off everyone.
And the sources were fascinating on this point. They highlighted the social effect. By raising that flag of financial prudence, you often become the hero of the group.
So many people were feeling the exact same pressure, but lacked the confidence or the language to speak up. By adjusting the expectation, you help the entire group breathe a little easier.
We've covered the practical language, but let's go back to the substance of the gift. I want to focus on the low-cost and free alternatives. These are gifts that come from life and time and skill, not from manufactured goods.
This is such a fundamental shift. It's moving from transactional giving to relational giving. And the sources had excellent examples of how to package these non-monetary gifts effectively.
Okay, the first category is giving time and help, offering non-monetary services that have a high utility for the person receiving them.
And you have to go beyond generic offers. You have to detail the service. So instead of just saying, I'll help you out sometime, offer a 3-hour garage cleanup pass for the relative who's always complaining about their clutter.
That's brilliant. Or for a friend with young kids, give them a full date night gift certificate where you babysit for an entire evening.
the value there is based on the expense or the time the recipient saves. Visiting someone lonely is invaluable. Cleaning their house or fixing a leaky faucet, that's a high-value service.
The second category leverages our personal talents. Using skills. Your professional or hobby skills become your currency.
Right. If you're good with computers, offer to spend a few hours setting up a new smart device for a less tech-savvy relative. Or organizing their digital photos.
If you're a great cook, you could gift a pre-made frozen meal kit they can use on a busy night.
Exactly. If you can draw or code, offer a custom-designed logo for their small side business. The gift becomes so tangible because you're using your unique expertise. I wrote you a collection of poems about our shared history instead of buying a store gift.
And the third, and maybe the most important for creating memories, is quality time.
And this is defined as a dedicated, memorable experience focused solely on connection. And it often outlasts any physical object. The key is intentionality.
So don't just hang out.
No, package it. This year, my gift to you is a memory afternoon. We'll take a long walk at that specific park we love, we'll bring hot cocoa, and we'll just talk, phone-free. It's a budget-friendly gift that speaks volumes about the value you place on that person.
But even after implementing these incredibly thoughtful, low-cost options, that feeling of inadequacy can still creep back in. We have to address that internal crisis. The moment when your budget-conscious gift is exchanged for a luxury item, that heavy burden of guilt or embarrassment.
It is so vital to distinguish between them psychologically. Guilt is internal and it's action-based. It's the feeling, I did something wrong because my gift was small, therefore I am a bad gift giver.
Okay, so guilt is about the action. What's embarrassment?
Embarrassed is social and identity-based. It's, I feel shy or uncomfortable about myself when I compare my one small bag to their mountain of presents. Comparison is what drives the embarrassment.
So you're standing there feeling small, thinking, my gift is cheap, I'm not generous, I'm less. How do you use the source material to build a bulletproof internal dialogue for self-protection?
You arm yourself with the essential counterphrases. First, I gave what I could. That reminds you of your constraints and your responsibility. And then, fundamentally, love is not about price tags. That is the ultimate mantra.
It reminds you that the cost is just a label, and true affection cannot be quantified by commerce.
Never. And this leads us right to the most powerful and healthy financial boundary the source has introduced, a phrase that really defines financial maturity. Live within my means.
This concept feels like the philosophical resolution to this whole deep dive.
It is. To live within your means is to spend only what you can safely spend, regardless of external pressure. It means you are not spending money you don't have. You are not incurring high-interest debt just to match a neighbor.
And you're not spending money to impress people who fundamentally do not understand your economic realities.
It's the ultimate act of self-care. It prioritizes long-term financial independence or even just short-term stability over the fleeting social approval you get from a generous gift.
The source provided such a clear application of this. I'm trying to live within my means so I don't use my credit card for gifts.
And that decision is not selfish. It is an intelligent, healthy boundary. By establishing this boundary, you ensure that the momentary joy of the holidays doesn't translate into months of financial strain, stress, and anxiety in the new year.
And that peace of mind.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate gift you can give yourself.
Yeah.
All right, we have established the philosophy, the language, the boundaries. But we have to acknowledge one final, very human failure: procrastination.
Ah, yes.
The best-laid budget plans so often fall apart when we hit the sheer chaos of the last minute.
The dreaded last-minute rush. It means it's very late, it's just before the deadline or the party. You thought you had time, but suddenly you realize you are completely out of time and you have to act now.
I bought a last-minute gift this morning on the way to the party.
We've all been there, and the sources painted such a vivid picture of the resulting environment, the physical sensory overload of last-minute shopping. It's just detrimental to budget integrity.
It's retail anarchy. You go to the mall, and it's overwhelmingly crowded, full of people pushing, anxious, stressed.
Everyone is in a rush, moving fast, impatiently, and the shelves are empty. The specific thoughtful item you planned to buy is sold out. No more stock.
And this scarcity and urgency, it leads to the psychological phenomenon of panic buying.
Exactly. You can't find the thing you wanted, so you panic and you just grab the first object available. It might be ugly, it might be totally generic, and crucially, it is often far more expensive than your budget allowed.
And this is how well-intentioned people end up buying those expensive, non-meaningful impulse gifts that just destroy their financial plan.
It is. But even if we fall victim to that last-minute panic, we have to forgive ourselves. We have to regain perspective. And there's a wonderful, soothing idiom for this.
What is?
Better late than never. This simple phrase offers grace. It means it's better to eventually do something, even if it's late or imperfect or rushed, than to just not do it at all. It provides a remedy against self-blame.
So if you show up late or with a slightly imperfect gift, the goal was connection, and you still managed to show up.
It brings us full circle. Even if the execution was frantic, the underlying motivation to show affection was still present.
And ultimately, it's the thought that counts.
Now, host speaker, let's wrap this entire deep dive into a comprehensive vocabulary synthesis. For you, the learner, this is the cheat sheet. It condenses the psychological struggle and the actionable solutions into concrete tools.
Okay, let's start with the language to define your financial state. Use these words to be clear about your reality. First, on a budget. You have a specific financial plan, and you have to follow it carefully.
Then, tight on money. You have enough for essentials, but no margin for error or indulgence.
Next, out of my budget. A polite, neutral way to say something costs too much for your current plan.
And finally, broke. The state of having zero discretionary money after your essential bills are paid.
Right, now for the action and strategy vocabulary. These are the disciplined things you do to maintain your plan.
First, save up. Keep money little by little for a future goal.
Cut back. Reduce how much you use or buy to free up resources. For example, cut back on eating out.
Watch my spending. The active practice of looking carefully and vigilantly at every single transaction.
And live within my means. The commitment to spend only what you can safely afford, prioritizing your stability over impressing other people.
Next up, the gifts and value vocabulary. This helps you shift your focus away from the dollars.
A meaningful gift. A gift chosen because it is full of feeling and personal history, not because it has a high cost.
Thoughtful. Investing time and attention to consider the person's true needs and likes.
And it's the thought that counts. The love and intention behind the gift is the true measure of its value, not the price tag.
And then we have the social scripts, the essential language for navigating group financial dynamics.
Split the bill. Everyone pays an equal part of the total.
Go Dutch. Each person pays only for their own specific items.
Chip in. Everyone gives a small, uniform amount for a communal cost.
And of course, I can't afford it or it's out of my budget. The polite, warm decline that protects your boundary.
And finally, the feelings vocabulary. This allows you to recognize and neutralize that internal and external stress.
Pressure, the heavy feeling from external expectations to spend or conform.
Guilty, the feeling that you did something wrong by not being generous enough.
And embarrassed, the feeling of shame or discomfort when you compare your resources to others.
This structured language, it replaces that vague anxiety with clearly defined action items and self-assurance.
It gives you the power to choose peace over panic.
As we close out this deep dive, let's just cement the core insight. The financial stress of the holiday season is manufactured, and it is entirely manageable through clarity, through intentional planning, and through honest communication.
By redefining value and choosing meaning over some monetary score, you reclaim your season. You have been given the permission and the language to prioritize your future self.
You are allowed to be on a budget. You are allowed to live within your means. And that boundary is not a sign of failure.
It's a profound sign of financial maturity and self-respect.
We encourage you, our listener, to take this knowledge and notice just one place this season where you can remove money pressure. Instead of giving in to the rush or the fear of being seen as cheap, choose something simple, kind, and honest.
Deploy one of those social scripts we shared to protect your peace.
And here is the final provocative thought to carry with you. You often hear that you can't buy happiness, but sometimes you can certainly buy peace.
What if the smaller, more thoughtful budget this year actually led to a deeper, more profound peace of mind, a stronger sense of responsibility, and ultimately more authentic and meaningful connections with the people you love?
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll talk to you again soon.